G'day all and welcome to Nat's Knacker's Yard. A few projects going through at the moment, dipping around my channel you'll spot them. This is kind of the mini latest, and what we have here is a DNA. Well, what we have is most of the DNA, or all the plastic from it anyway. So for those that watch Charlie's YouTube channel, Motorcycle Rescuer, you may recognise this as elements of Amanda's DNA that just needs smartening up, frankly. So Charlie's had a go at painting. There's times when it just doesn't work, and this is one of those times. And the worst thing about paint is it gets really frustrating. And I offered to help Charlie out because he's a mate and he's helped me out in the past. So why wouldn't I? So yeah, you can just see where the primer has just gone on badly or reacted badly, and you just get that. I mean, actually quite a cool effect, but not if you're not looking for it. You know, why has it done that? Probably a mixture of a few things. Probably a bit too heavy, cold can, maybe even a dodgy can. But it's one of those things. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Now, I am ludicrously patient on something, so I can sort that. I had exactly the same come through on the tank for the ER5, so you know, it's not for the individuals, just these things happen periodically, and other places, look, it's gone down perfectly. So what I'm going to do is give those a good rub down, go through the lot. I've got no intention of removing all the paint. There's a lot of filler primer within there, so it's a good painting surface. Under there I just need to flatten it off to get to it. Now I could do that by hand, but I haven't got arms like Garth, so I've got my little vibrating plate sander. I have got an orbital sander, which I haven't used much because I don't really like it, but I think I don't like it because I haven't used it much. So I might have a go with that and see if I can just get used to it a little bit more, because it will make life considerably easier and a damn sight quicker than doing it with a small vibrating plate one. And you've got to teach yourself new skills, haven't you? So I've got to get good at it at some point. Right, that'll do me for now. I think next shot should be when I've had a go at least one of these panels, and ideally all of them, but we'll see how we get on. Cool, catch you later. Okay, so it's the next day and my dog is checking out my handiwork. Lady, woof. You know what I mean. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, that's right. A bit of evening work, sat in front of the box, effectively knifing, puttying through the worst of it. Now I thought I'd do a bit of an experiment actually. So one of the panels I sanded down, and I'll go through sanding in a second, but I sanded down through the worst bits, re-primed it, and then knifing putted it. So a little bit more on one, and on the other one, and the rest of the kit, I just went for knifing putty on top of the paint that it had, bearing in mind I'm going to be scrubbing that down complete. So a little bit of a compare and contrast, and we'll see if there's any difference in result from either of them, really, I suppose. So yeah, job for the day is throughout the day, just a few minutes at a time, just come out and sand those down. While I'm on sanding, let me take you to my sandy black. Right, welcome to my shed. Yeah, I was trying to use my orbital sander, and although it's quite a high grade paper anyway, it's just, in my opinion, it's just too much. It's just too active, and what I found is using my really old and really crappy little vibration plate is so much better. So that's 240 grit on that, which I sort of live by, but 240 grit, give it a whack over and we'll see how we go. Cool. Okay, so the compare and contrast. This one was sanded, then knifing putted, then sanded down, then sprayed. This one was knifing putted, sanded down, then sprayed. So effectively on the left has had twice as much sanding, and weirdly enough it's come on a lot further. So, you know, if I've learned anything from this, and top tip from that in the future from this is, when it's all bumpy and lumpy, sand it down as good as you can, then knifing, putty it, then sand it down again and spray it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still not there. I'm going to have to sand this down at least once more. This is going to need one more sand down at least, more ferocious than this one. But we're getting there. But we are getting there. And I've done much the same with the other bits as well. So, and again, they're pretty ropey. Having done this, I've discovered several things. I think this has been painted at least 3 times. Not always well, dare I say. Why? Because there's elements on it that look like if you break into a jawbreaker, you know, there are layers of paint, some better, some thicker, so it's taking quite a lot to get it to some sort of decent standard. But early days, more to do. Cool. I'm going to get sanding again. Right, bit of a rub down. Ice cream van. Haven't had one of them for a while. Yeah, bit of a rub down, and we're getting there, slowly but surely. The observant may notice that the primer has changed colour. I'm now using high build primer. There's no real reason for that. Why I've changed, apart from the fact that I've run out of filler primer. So that one's doing pretty well actually. I'm going to let that dry off, and maybe do a little bit more with it, but probably not. The other one still needs a fair amount. So yeah, let that dry off. Bit more of a sand, potentially a little bit more of a fill. Now I'm going to get on with these ones. Right, you can see these look awful. Now that is, it's intentional. No, that's what the primer does. What primer's supposed to do is point out where you need to do more work. It's not just getting your ground work ready. It's actually pointing out where you need to do more. It's more of an it's an indicator, I suppose. So I'm going to go back on that. Can't focus. Go back on that. Concentrate on what I need to. See how I get on. The aim is to get high build on all of the bits. Put the mud guard somewhere. High build on all of the bits today, so that I can do a little bit more, tiny bit of knifing putty tonight, let it cure overnight, and it will be a tiny bit, then sand down and prime again tomorrow. Cool. Right, one monster sanding and priming session later, and that'll do me for the day. To be brutally honest, I have had to go back to the original beginning of this vid, the original bit that I filmed, just to try and make myself feel a bit better. It's a lot better. It is a damn sight better. It's not done. That's the best one out of the lot by a margin. And then probably in order, maybe that one which needs another rub down, although that's going to be by hand, I think. I think if I start taking the power to that, it's just going to whip off me good work. The tank cover, or the fake tank cover I suppose, ain't looking too bad. The nose isn't too bad. The 2 side sections are pretty ropey. The mudguard is just being an absolute biatch, but I think that's because my water got cold, and yeah, spraying cold paint ain't a good idea, but that's fine. It's layering up, that's all I need it to do. I'll give it a rub down and a blast tomorrow and see how that fares. It's an interesting point actually. When your paint does this, don't throw a strop and don't strip it off. Really easy to do, really easy to throw a strop. Just rub it down, go again. You will feel at times like you're wasting your time because you're spraying paint on and then rubbing it straight off, but you are rubbing it in the right places and you're getting it in the right places, and that's what counts. So yeah, an interesting paint effect, and it's not due to the paint, it's not due to the surface. There are some weird, where this has been painted so many times and had stickers on it so many times, there are some weird chemicals kicking around on this. I am getting some strange reactions. It's going like glue or it has been going like glue in some places. Just rub it off and go again. All you're doing is messing up your sandpaper more than anything else. So yeah, I'm not stressed about it. It'll come. It's just taken longer and more effort than I'd initially anticipated, but that's fine. That's what it's for, and when it comes down to it, it's to save the bike. Right, so I think I'll upload from here just so you can see there is some progress. What's next? Rubbing them down tonight. I'll leave this to cure properly. Rub it down tonight. I need to get it under cover because it is going to start to rain. Rub it down tonight and then see what we end up with tomorrow. I think we should be able to get away with, although I'm now out of primer, grab some primer, chuck some primer on. Doesn't need to be thick because there's a lot on there, and then start chucking black on to see what happens. The one thing that I have come to the conclusion of is I'm not going to flat black it. There is just way too much relief on these, and a flat colour will make that stick out like the proverbial horses. So I am going to pattern it, and I'm probably going to do it red, similar to my diversion, because Amanda wanted red, and more importantly I've got red. Right, that'll do me. Thanks very much for watching. Not the most interesting or inspiring ever, but hopefully a little bit educational for everybody, and you see progress. Cheers all, ta-da. And an extra bit, I wasn't expecting to do any more filming, but I just thought it felt a little bit damp squib at the end of that. So I've been sat here in the kitchen with this stuff, which I have slightly fallen in love with. Norton Expert. So I've been sat there with the 240 grit, hand sanding with a sponge block, and I'm really quite impressed with what we got left. It is now smooth. Looks awful, but it is actually good enough to go. I'm now a lot more content. So tomorrow's video will be a bit of prime over the top, just to bed in those bits where I've gone all the way through, and then we'll chuck some black on it, because this is now smooth. Cool. I think we're getting there, people. I think we're getting there. Cheers.